Okay, so I did test the sound and you can hear me and all of the birds. Love that. It is Monday morning, like, I don't know, 5:30, 6 o'clock, something like that. I'm in my jammies and I'm on a very special piece of the property where I live. This lake is called Sebago Lake and it is glacier made, spring fed, crystal clear. And I have a thing about the white quartz. So I usually have some white quartz with me because I think it's so cool. And when I used to, before COVID hit, I would do speaking engagements all over the state, and I would pick up little tiny, much smaller fraction of that size, and I would put these little 3x5 cards that the girls in jail made with just facts about sex trafficking, and at every table I would put some of the cards that the girls had made and some of the white rocks for people to put in their pocket or their purse as a reminder that when we see something or have a sense about something, that we need to take action, and that action doesn't need to be with evidence. It can be just a feeling, and then you let the police do their job, which is to find evidence. And there's anonymous ways of doing that, so you don't have to worry about, getting involved, and some people are really nervous about that. So anyway, I used to get those little rocks here. So this is my little she shed office of love. That's where the magic happens. That's my adorable little 1.5-year-old Yorkie named Lucy. And that's where I live. We are on the bottom or lower bay of Sebago Lake. And my little she shed, I wanted it to look like a secret garden, something sort of English cottagey. And I follow this landscaper named Ted Carter. And I don't know if you've ever seen The Treehouse Master, and this sort of flamboyant, heterosexual but flamboyant guy walks through people's properties and says, "This is the tree that has called to me. This is where we're going to put the tree house," right? Ted Carter's not quite like that, but a little bit. And he walks your property and talks about what is feminine and what is masculine. Pavement is masculine, flowers are feminine, and balance, and he has a dowsing rod. It's not like a willow that's in a Y. It is this piece of metal that's like an L, right? Like this. And he hangs on to this part loosely, just enough to not let it drop out of your hand. And this part circles, or doesn't, depending on the energy of where he's walking around. And he walked over to this spot, and that sucker was spinning so fast. I'm like, there's no way that he could have made, he could not have made it go as fast as it was going. So who knows? I think about Jesus and how much we don't know. It's an amazing planet. We had amazing human beings having this spiritual experience called life on this planet, and I just think there's so much that Jesus did and taught the disciples that we don't do, healing each other. And anyway, I digress for 4 minutes, so I apologize for that. So I thought we'd pick up where we left off. So I guess YouTube has a 2-hour limit, because or something, or God was just ready for me to stop and the Holy Spirit said finished, but it just stopped at 2 hours last night. So I will try to pick up exactly where we were last night. For some reason it took many hours for that 2-hour YouTube to upload. So I sent Susan the first YouTube early this morning, And then I had my breakfast and my coffee, and now we'll pick up here for as long as I can. It's starting to get humid. Okay. Are you ready? So I am living in it could have been maybe a modular home. I don't remember it being a trailer, but I do remember it being sort of manufactured. And there was one other girl, and I think her name was Cherry, like the fruit. And there was one guy, and this lady who watched over us. And the girl, her mother was in the business, and somehow she got caught in this web. But there was something physically wrong with her. Her vagina would not allow a penis to go in. And I forgot what the name was, but it wasn't happening. And I don't know what happened to her. And I don't remember hearing the story. She disappeared, and I don't know what happened to her, but for a little while she was there, and then she was gone. And the guy, he was used for sex with other people, with women. I think, I don't know. I know that he did physical stuff. There was a big lot of land behind this building, and this was in the fall, and he would chainsaw the trees down. I would help carry them out. We made Christmas wreaths, and during the day sold Christmas wreaths and Christmas trees. So for a long time, Christmas wreaths was a trigger for me. And I didn't understand it then, but I do now. I was 16, and they couldn't have me walking the street or in the public, and there wasn't internet then, there wasn't cell phones then, so it was harder to sell me, and Peter was new. So for whatever the reason, they had me do sort of labor during the day, and at night would bring me to different hotels. Up north, there's farming. There's a bunch of blueberry pickers that come, and it's sort of like a band of gypsies. The pickers have like a pickers camp, and you live there and you pick berries, then you go to the next farm and the next farm, and it could be apples, it could be blueberries, it could be potatoes, or whatever the harvest is, and they sort of follow the states. So girls are brought to where these camps are because they have money. So I was brought to the camp, I was brought to fancy hotels. I remember a happy moment of being at this one hotel, and there was a band playing, and they were singing "Three Times a Lady," and the guy was looking at me like, "You are a lady." And I was like, he's picking me out. He's looking at me. How cool, how cool is this? And I was very few happy moments, and that was a happy moment for me. There was a group of hunters, 5 hunters that were at a hotel, and they were looking for prostitutes, and there were supposed to be other girls who were supposed to meet me at the hotel, and we were supposed to offer our services to these 5 guys. And when I got there, there was no other girls showed up. So it was me, size 0, so I'm a size 4 now. Right, little 115 pounds, 5'1". I'm giving myself that one. Size 4. I was size 0. I wasn't menstruating. There's no way. I was 27 years old, Diane Foster, fake ID. And these guys had, I'm sure, children my age, and they didn't care that it was just me. And the thing about Johns and sex trafficked people, these guys are wanting to have a sexual adventure. It's this bonding thing when there's a group of them, or just lonely. They're just lonely for whatever reason, because I'm sure of a high ACE score. They can't, there's all these different reasons for why they do what they do. And by the way, there's been great research done on how to stop them, and public humiliation and a very high financial fine. They have said this is what will stop us, and we still in our communities haven't done what they said would stop them. But anyway, so these 5 guys took turns, and it is my job to make them feel like I want you so bad. This is exciting. Nobody understands. Some girls have a very high sex drive. Yes, I am 18. And one guy was like, you don't need help, do you? Oh, no, I don't need help. Here with 5 guys. He was the kind one. He was the guy that had a conscience, but didn't stop him, right? One guy had a fetish for biting, hard. I'm not talking about that seductive little nibble on the neck. I'm talking about like when your child gets new teeth and they bite so hard they leave a bite mark and break the skin. This guy was breaking the skin. So the other guys had to tell him to stop breaking the merchandise. That was, one of the nights. Another one of the stories of that time, there's a subculture in the world of prostitution. So you think about, I've done triathlons. I have been a part of different churches, and I noticed that the Catholic Church, they have a whole subculture, right? The Jewish religion is a religion, but it's a culture. It's a way of life. People buy their cars from salesmen that share their beliefs. It's a culture. Sort of things that a triathlon person would say other triathlon people get, right? It's just a culture. In the world of living on the street, of prostitution, there are rules, and some of the rules, there's a tree sticking out of my head. Hopefully that doesn't bother you too much there. I'll go in between the two trees. Sorry, I hope it doesn't bother you. All right, so, and it might have changed, but back then, when you collect money, I'm gonna, because it's bothering me. Just turn that way a little bit. There, now I'm in between two trees. I like that. So when you carry the money, if you talk to, you're not allowed to talk to a pimp. You're not allowed to invite a pimp into your home. You are owned by one pimp, and another pimp is going to try to take your money, and they're going to try to recruit you, and it's kind of like lobstermen with their buoys. It is territorial. So one night I was asleep on the couch, and I don't remember which house I was in, but I was asleep on the couch. I was wearing some sort of jammies, and there were two black men that came to the door looking for Peter. And I am polite. I play small so I can survive the situation that I'm in. And so I did an act of kindness and said, no, he isn't here right now. I expect him. Come in. As soon as, sort of like those vampire movies, as soon as I invited him in, the vampire can't come in the house without, invitation. As soon as I said, come in, I broke the rule. And as soon as I broke the rule, they knew it, and they put their hand, one of them put his hands, shoved me back, and it was like, wahoo, right? She just opened the gate and threw me down on the couch, and the two of them ripped off my clothes and took turns raping me. And as I was laying on the couch, I'm thinking, I hope Peter isn't going to send me to Lowell, Massachusetts. So that was the threat. We talked in the first video about, finding out what works. Does love work? Does fear work? What works? And for me, remember, Peter would take me out into the darkness and turn the light on and off and say that's how fast you would disappear. He would also tell me rumors, facts about the other pimp. I would see one of his girls, and Peter would point out he broke her arm. Her arm would be in a cast. Never hurt the face, but would burn the girls, break the girls, humiliate the girls. And the most, awful thing is being physically constrained, and they would put, this is what they told me, peanut butter on the girls, or some sort of sauce, like there was some sort of a pheromone or stuff kept in a jar, and put on the girls that would make the Doberman pinschers sexually excited, and they would take pornography of the girls having sex with or being by animals. And Doberman pinschers were the animals that they mentioned to me. So I'm laying there being raped by these two guys, and I'm thinking, I just broke the rule. I wonder what the consequences are going to be, and I hope that he doesn't give me to Pepper, and I hope I don't go to Lowell, Massachusetts. And how can I survive what's being done to me right now? So, you try to get out of a bad situation, and if you can't get out of it and you're in it, then it is thinking your way through it. How am I going to live through this situation? And then when it's over, I remember I saw those same two guys, and that didn't, Peter didn't, that's probably when they moved me over to the other place, because I think it was at the first, it doesn't matter. I did see those guys again, and I said something witchy, and they were freaked out because they thought that I was a witch and I was putting a root on them. And I guess that is, what's the religion in the Bahamas? It's voodoo. It's Haitians, I guess it is voodoo. And they thought I was putting a root on them, and they're like, my grandmother will blah, 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 blah. And I just said nothing. I figured it was more terrifying to them to think that someone has cursed them and didn't debate it. I felt like that would be more powerful. So that was one of the only times that I felt like I had some sort of revenge, right? Things to note. Remember last night I was like, Amazing Grace. I was not on any kind of birth control. Sometimes the guys used condoms, sometimes they didn't, sometimes they got lost. And I had to dig it out later. The used condom inside of my body. I never got a sexually transmitted disease, never got, this is on the edge of when AIDS was happening during this time, but nobody knew what was going on and nobody was talking about it. It was nothing. How amazing is that I didn't get pregnant. I wasn't really menstruating, so I was so malnourished, So these sort of things, these stories that I'm telling you were regular. They were, just traded with people. This pimp is using me. I am his slave. You want me to sell a Christmas tree? You want me to make Christmas wreaths? You want me to blow this person? You want me to seduce this person? You want me, and the regular brainwashing thing, showing me the cards from the warden, being able to take me into the police station and out of the police station, taking me into parking lots and pointing out people and just saying, just teaching me how awful the world is. He's one of us, he's one of us, he's one of us. And just feeling like, awful human beings, people who do awful things were everywhere. And including, my family, my uncle, my aunt, friends of the family, my peers, big brothers, stepfathers, fathers. It was just this perversion was everywhere. And also, growing up, as far back as I can remember, I told you my dad was Dear Abby and my mom was sort of nervous and vulnerable, and yet where she was confident was her sexuality. Um, you know, mowing the yard in her bikini, making the other moms crazy. A part of my being bullied and beaten up so frequently was because of my mom. Um, it wasn't bad enough that I was this weird little kid, but also the moms spoke badly about my mom in their homes, and then the kids would bring that up as well. So my mom, at the end, right before the divorce, and I'm living with Dad, my mom is, being sexual with the neighbors and I guess my dad was like, do what you need to do, but don't leave me. So, have your sexual adventure, but come home to me. And then when Mom found a man that was seemingly wealthy, was seemingly classy, because she always longed for some sophistication in her life growing up in Virginia and in foster homes and being so poor, and then marrying my dad at 17, having me at 18. She longed for some sophistication, and when she met somebody that she thought would give her that, although that it was a bait and switch, she was off to Boca Raton, and then on her wedding day, her husband said, I want to tell you that I don't have any money. My ex-wife is having me pay child support help her financially with the 2 or 3 children that she had before me. And actually, he didn't have to pay child support for those kids, but he did have to pay alimony, and he had to pay for their one child, and it was like an astronomical amount. It was like $1,600 a month or something, which was mind-blowing for us. And he said, I don't make the kind of money that can afford to lose the alimony and the child support. There's not much left over, and I just needed to tell you that I lied to you. And Mom married him anyway, and then he got caught using his company credit card to buy things for Mom, to take her out to fancy dinners. That sophistication that she was enjoying and was attracted to was not his money. They did not arrest him, but they did fire him. And he was 40 years old, fired, and really, from that point through the next 28 years of being married to my mom, never emotionally recovered from that. So Mom had to become the breadwinner. She was the manager of these chain jewelry stores, Service Merchandise, Zales Jewelry. So across the United States, when a store in a mall was failing and it was going under, they would hire my mom with my brother and sister and shell of a human being stepdad, and they would go to Georgia, Oklahoma, Kansas City, wherever, to get that store going again. And there was usually a Radio Shack, and so her husband would work for Radio Shack and would tag along wherever. So that was my brother and sister's life, was like a military without the support, and they would just go, and that was their life. So the attention was not on me. I was the MIA troubled child. Mom was overwhelmed with what she had done, leaving the security of my dad, and now in this crazy place with 2 kids and this man, and she was somewhere else. And my dad is beyond heartbroken to lose mom. He was madly in love with her and devastated, and his behavior was changing. I saw it, but nobody else was really close enough to see it. So me being in Maine, being in this prostitution situation, I'm sure my grandmother was worried in Massachusetts, but she was also worried about the case. She was also worried about her son, right? My grandmother outlived 3 husbands at this point. So the lady who was watching out for me at this property, I forgot her name, but I remember her. And one of the things that I saw her in my early 40s, I saw her walking into a doctor's office, and I freaked out in my car. I mean, I pulled up to the building. There's a sidewalk between the car and the building, and I see her walk past. I couldn't get out of the car. It was so funny. I'm, in my 40s, and I had never seen her. So that was a trigger. So so she was nice to me, but she was, and you see this so frequently, she was in love with my pimp. And so she was divorced, and she was doing everything Peter told her to do. And that was to be the guard. He's building his business. And he scammed her out of the trees on her land. And anyway, so she came from a very large family, and her father took care of his wife, her mom, that had MS. And I'm going to say like 13 kids or something. And it was near Thanksgiving, and he was going to make pies. I had never made a homemade pie before, and I was excited to hear her tell me about this tradition of her dad making pies. And she said, well, I think she was going to take her mom somewhere and was going to leave me with her father to make pies. And I was excited. I mean, I didn't realize I was going to be alone with him. It didn't click in my mind that I just was going to get to have an experience of a family. I was going to get to have a good experience, and I was very happy, very excited to do it. And when I went over to his house, again, he doesn't ask me, where's your parents? Or, one of those many times when someone could have seen what was going on and intervened, and just falling through the cracks. So I'm at this guy's house, and there's pictures of family, and it's a big kitchen, and all this stuff is out for pies, and I'm just so excited to be there. And you cut up the apples, and you peel them, and then you cut all this stuff, and then his hands are shaking, and he's like trying to touch my breasts, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he was begging me. he was like, my wife has been sick for a really long time. You don't have to do anything to me. I just want to touch your breast. And, he ruined it. He ruined what could have been a beautiful moment in a really, really fucked up time in my life. Another little story. So where we lived, there was some sort of neighbor. Yes, I let him. I'm nothing, right? Go ahead. There you go. Anyway, so there was a neighbor quite a ways down, and they had puppies, and a litter of puppies, and they'd wandered down my way or whatever. So I don't remember how the whole thing happened, but they had a boy my age, and of course all I had been having sex with is disgusting grown-ups. And I don't know how I made it happen, but somehow I made it happen, and I had sex with this boy, this teenager, and it was normal, and that was a nice moment that I had with this boy, but he had a jealous girlfriend, and I was very used to being able to be friends with you while I'm having sex with your husband or whoever, or your boyfriend or whatever. It was just, I don't get to have a relationship. I don't get to be the girlfriend. I don't get to get presents or taken out to dinner or anything beautiful. I get the table scraps of life, and if your boyfriend or husband have sex with me, they also tell me, because remember, Dad was a Dear Abby and Mom was promiscuous. They tell me things that they don't tell the girlfriend or tell the wife. There was something about me that made people feel safe enough that they would tell me their deepest, darkest secrets. And they would be sexual to me, on me, but what I got out of it is, an hour of being important, an hour of mattering, and their secrets. They would tell me their secrets, and that I had value in being a safe person for people to confide in, and I had value in being a sexual depository. So I was nice to his girlfriend and the people at that thing, and it was a very rare moment that I even got to, speak to anybody. And I think, anyway, so I was over their place, wasn't supposed to be. And I don't even remember how that whole thing happened, because I really wasn't allowed off the property, and I don't really have clarity about that. But I do remember their puppies, and I remember having sex with that boy, and I remember going into their property, into their home, and this woman older than the teenager that she was his girlfriend. I'm sure it was a very Jerry Springer situation. And she, as soon as the door opened, she grabbed me by my neck and lifted me off the floor and started choking, and I went unconscious. And I guess she was afraid that she was going to murder me, because she was. And I woke up, I came to on the floor, and this is so indicative of a survivor. As soon as I came to, wow, I am so sorry. What did I do that would make you so angry to try to kill me? You are, that's my boyfriend, and you have to stay away from my boyfriend, and blah, 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 blah. Got it. I was just being friendly, but if you don't even want me to I don't even want you to, I won't talk to him, right? That feeling of you're going to die isn't paranoia when it's real, right? So there was no more communication there, but the dogs, I would see the puppies in back. So Peter would sometimes send people to the house to have sex with me, and I could be asleep in my bed, and I would wake up, and there would be somebody crawling into bed with me. I remember, I don't think it was that place, but some place, maybe it was at my home, but I started keeping a knife near me, with never the intention that I would use it, but that it would scare people to stay away if they thought I might use it. But sleeping was a trigger for me, because so many times, dozens of times, I would wake up to a sexual assault. So I remember years ago, my husband and I having a huge argument, and me saying, you wanna, we're at camp and people sort of sleep wherever. That scenario has never happened, but he was thinking it might from his own childhood, when all the friends would come over and they would pass out everywhere, and I said, not in my bedroom. My bedroom needs to be safe. And many times on many traveling things, you'd pay a cheaper rate and you would share a room, and I always paid the extra and got a private room. I just careful about my sleep. So the Great Escape, we're at 44 minutes, so I want to move to the Great Escape, and then I'm gonna stop this at around an hour, so it'll upload quicker, and then we'll continue later. So the Great Escape. So I have been oh, one more thing. At some point in here, I overdrank. I told you, my body does not like Tylenol. It does not like Novocaine. It does not like, I've had shoulder surgery, 2 meniscus surgeries, and I recovered with Advil and ice. Um, I am just really hypersensitive to medication, and I could tell you stories, but um, so I didn't drink or drug because it affected me in a terrible way. I felt awful, so I didn't do it. But one night, and I don't even remember why, um, it might have been New Year's, but whatever. Um, I overdrank, and I think the lady where I was living had a bottle, a fifth of gin, and I think we were drinking gin and 7 Up or whatever, gin and something, and I started throwing up, and I threw up for like, many hours. And the lady was telling the pimp she needs to go to the hospital, and he's like, well, bring her. And I don't know if she said she was my sister or my mother. Like, I don't even know. Again, fall through the cracks. How was I in the hospital emergency room, and people not call my parents, or not like call the police or whatever? Fall through the cracks. But it was alcohol poisoning, and that was really the last time I ever got intoxicated. It just, my body doesn't like any of that. So this is another story. So on this property, I have been beaten, raped, tied up. One of the things Peter did was he hog-tied me. So he tied my wrists, and he tied my ankles, and then tied them together. And I'm sort of laying on the floor. And he said, so he was, this is in the beginning when he was trying to figure out how to control me. So he did this thing, and he said, you have so many minutes to make me ejaculate so many times, or whatever it was. And if you don't, then I'm just going to leave you here hogtied for the rest of the day. Just these weird, random things that he would have me do. So anyway, so hi, little Lucy. Hi, Lucy girl. So choked to unconsciousness, people biting you, me, all these different brainwashing things. And I really believed that my pimp was Satan, like of Satan. Like, I believed that that he had eyes everywhere. Like, all these human beings were his spies everywhere. Hospital, police station, neighbors who look like, Ma and Pa Kettle. That there just was no safe place. And I believed that if I left the property, that he would send me to Lowell, Massachusetts. And to me, that was a fate worse than death. Truly. So I was out back, and I could hear the puppies that were getting bigger, and I was speaking to God. You know, the God from the revival, you know. And I said to the trees, said, God, I don't know if you are real. I don't know if you're not real. I don't know. And I'm 16. I was either just about to I turned 17 in April, so I don't know if I was 16 or 17. And I said, I must have been 17. So I said, I don't know if there's this thing of karma where if I commit suicide, then I come back to a worse life than I have already been living. Or if there's a thing called hell, and if I kill myself, that I go to hell, and that is an awful place. Or if you just, you know, I don't know. So I don't want to live anymore. I've seen enough. This place is awful. I don't belong here. I am afraid to kill myself, and I absolutely do not want to keep living. And I meant it. I meant it with every cell in my being. I loved the puppies. I loved the birds and the trees and nature where I felt safe. I loved the lake I lived on as a kid. I just, you know, I loved it. But boy, the world, right? So if you are real and there really is a God, will you please help me? Please help me. So I don't know if it was that day. I don't know if it was a week later. I have some disassociation, as you can tell, when I get lost in time frames and sequences and stuff. Totally normal. But at some point, I walked out the front door, and each step towards the road, and the neighborhood was like huge lots. So it was a long way before the next house, and then a long way to the next house. And I don't remember the street being tree lined in the front, so you could see. And I didn't know when Peter was coming. But if he came and saw me, I could say, I was just checking out the front yard. I am just checking out. I thought I heard you. And I'm thinking about what I would say if Peter came. And I took a right. I don't know why I took a right. Amazing grace. I don't know why I went to the first house on the left and not the first house on the right. Amazing grace. And I knocked on this door, and this woman went to open the door, and as soon as she cracked the door, I pushed my way in, and she was like, what's happening? And I said, I need help, and I told her what was going on. And again, why didn't she call the police? Why didn't she, you know, fill in the blank? So many responses she could have done, but as fate would have it, she was going to a place called Crossroads for Women. for alcoholism. She was going the next day. So she called Crossroads and said, I have this teenager in my house, and what do I do? And they did not say, call the police. They did not say, fill in the blank. They said, bring her with you. So Crossroads for Women is a 30-day alcohol treatment facility in Windham, Maine. It is for people over 18. I was not. It was for people who had an addiction to alcohol. I did not. But I lied about drinking. You know, my story was enough. I threw in some booze. And they let me stay. They let me stay for, I want to say 3 months, 90 days, not 30 days. 30 days later, when the next batch of girls came, and by the way, no police came to see me, no, it's just amazing looking back, cracks, and Amazing Grace. And one of the people who came on the next group of women was someone that I had seen in my Peter days, and she said, don't worry, I won't tell anybody that you're here, because I was so afraid. I was terrified of Satan finding me. And she said, don't worry, I won't say anything. By the way, shit got real when you went MIA. There was a huge search for you. Somebody got shot. He lost a financial resource in me, and he wanted his property back. And there was a war. And don't be seen, you know. And I'm like, no problem. So after the 90-day thing, there was a place called Day One, which is a year-long residential, little Lucy sitting here, year-long residential program. And the kids vote on whether or not they're going to accept another kid. So I did the interview with them, and they said, well, you know, we like you and we'd like to offer you a place here, but we are worried that you're going to try to have sex with people here. And that was, I didn't say this to them, but that was valid. There was a lesbian at Crossroads that I tried to have sex with, hard tried to have sex with. And she was like, come see me when you're 18, little girl, and then let's talk about it, you know? So I didn't have sex, but she was really kind, and that was my, that was the only thing I had of value. That was how I said thank you. That's how what I traded. My only thing of value was sex. So I'm really glad that and I hope she stayed sober, because how cool is that she resisted me. And anyway, so the kid said that. I said, how about this? You don't try to have sex with me. I won't try to have sex with you. And they said, okay. So we are just about at the 1 hour mark. And the next part of this story is so important. What happens next is filled with miracles, and I will tell you that on the next video. I'm gonna go get some coffee, and I'll probably move us in, maybe into the she shed, because it's buggy. and I had some raindrops.